Our story begins with Mr. Morn, who is 6 years old, with his father in the theater to see the singing, and his dream has always been to become a pioneer in the future. But his dream changed when he saw theatrical performances with his father. And his dream did not come true, and he became the owner of the largest theater in the city. Some people considered him very smart and others despised him and despised his ideas, but he always has confidence in himself. And we see that he's in the office, and Mrs. Crayley walks in and tells him that the overseas employees are making a mess and they ask him and his monthly salary. And she sees them from the window that opens and asks the clerk to go to the cafe for breakfast and go out a secret exit behind the office and into town. On the other side, at the same time, we see Johnny Algarilli waiting for his father and the rest of the gang, the police. On the other hand, Mr. Morn arrives at the restaurant and meets Mr. Iddy, his friend, and asks him to continue financing him with money. But Iddy tries to finance him with money because all his secret shows are a failure and boring, that he did not achieve any success in the last period. But Morn tells him that he is right, that all the past stage performances were boring, but the next show will be a hit because it will be a huge lyrical insult and it sure will succeed. Iddy tells you who will be interested in the singing performances and this competition. And he says, Morn, it will be a great opportunity for many interested people, and his dream is to be famous singers and have a show, especially since the competition is a great singing show. And Morn returns to his office after calming down the angry staff. He talks to Secretary Crown and tells her that she is making an announcement for a singing contest on stage. And he collects all the valuable things and furniture that he owns to sell and get money to fund the competition. And he tells a secretary that the winner will win $10,000. And because the secretary accidentally added 00, and the prize became 1,000, and the ads were printed and published throughout the city. After that, the competition begins, and Mr. Morn begins to listen to the candidates and choose the best for the competition, and after listening to them and judging their voices and performance, he begins to choose and announce who will compete in the next performances. The first group chooses the Band of Frogs, and the second group Bit and Make and Goni and Rosita and Johns. After that, one of the contestants asks him as he sits on top of the box and says, "Here's the $1,000 prize." Mr. Morn is surprised by the award number, and one of the assistants gives him the award announcement. And then he takes the secretary to the office and blames her and scolds her because she is the one in charge of writing the announcement. And he tries to convince Iddy to ask his rich family to finance them with $1,000. But Iddy refuses and tells him that it is impossible and he must sell the theater to secure the amount of $1,000, and Mr. Morn tells him it says yes. It's impossible because my father stayed for 20 years and he works as a car wash to collect money to buy the theater, and I can't sell it. And then he goes out and talks to the contestants about going home, and training for the competition starts tomorrow. Iddy blames him and tells him that you will lose everything, and Mr. Morn responds and tells him that he is convinced of everything he will do. At the same time, we see in the elephant house that Nina is very sad because she is the shortest to classify the competition due to her stress. Although her voice is very beautiful, and her grandfather blames her and tells her that she must be strong and brave, and asks you to go and ask Mr. Morn to give you another chance to qualify for the competition and go out of your way to achieve your dream. On the other hand, we see that Achi. She tries to convince her brother Lintz that she is going to the contest alone because Mr. Morn chose her alone and did not choose him with her, and that if he wins the award, he will open a studio for the musician, but he did not. Convinced by her words. On the other hand, Johnny the gorilla is surprised that his father chose him to participate with them in the next robbery, and that the date of the operation is unknown. On the other hand, at Rosita's house, she was talking on the phone and looking for a babysitter to take care of her children, the number of which is 20. And she did not find any babysitter who would accept a job because the number of her children was many. And her husband would not come home and he had returned from work. She told him about a contest on the basis that he was helping her, but he had fallen asleep from work exhaustion, and she decided that she would help herself. And early in the morning she would prepare for her children and her husband everything they needed around the house, from food, and leave them a logged message, and she would go to the competition. And on stage, the training for the competition begins. Mr. Morn informs them of the instructions to start the training, and gives them a list of songs and clothes to present theatrical performances. And they all go to his place to train, and at the same time, he gives his clothes to wear. Train, and suddenly the electricity goes out and you will see the door in the power cuts and in the ceiling while he fixed the power line that fell from above and hung from his leg, and you. I could see it. Mina tells him that yesterday she was with the contestants in the competition and that she did not accept the competition, and before she completes her words, Morn asks her for help, and they did help him and he was able to fix the electricity, and then Mina entered the theater with him and offers to work with him in the theater, and she is very happy and accepts an offer to work with him in the theater. Min did not return home. She found all her friends and her neighbors waiting for her in front of the house to celebrate her acceptance of the competition. But she concealed from them that she did not accept the competition so that they would not be scandalized and upset. And joy would fly from them. On the other hand, Johnny Algarelli trains him how to drive a car in a bank robbery in the process that they are preparing for the next period. Rosita returns home to find that her children have grown up and everything is fine. As for Crowley, the secretary tells Mr. Morn that the bank clerk wants to talk to him, but he, as usual, avoids confronting him, and the bank clerk walks in and tells him if this month he doesn't have enough money to pay, we will cover all the debts that you owe. We will seize all your property, and then we will go to your friend Iddy to spend some time with him at his house, and they are talking. Iddy tells her about his grandmother and shows her his picture. And he tells him Morn teaches him that she is very rich, and Iddy tells him that she is very, very rich, more than you imagine. And forces him to approach her because he will hurt her and he is not an easy person. And in the morning in the hall and counting the performance of the contestants' training, the lamppost falls to the stage and one of the contestants is injured and taken to the hospital. Morn sees that the squad of frogs has withdrawn from the competition for disagreeing with each other, and Morn asks Mina that she is doing an abuse experiment again, and she enters the competition instead of the frogs who withdrew from the competition, but she hesitates and is afraid of failing. And we see ECHI come home and find her boyfriend and another with him to do the competition and get angry and ask them to leave his house. And we see Mike, and he was able to get into a nightclub to gamble after he convinced them that he would soon win $100,000 in the competition. And after that they found out that he was cheating on a player and they chased him, and he was finally able to escape from them. And Morn goes with Iddy to his rich grandmother's house after she saw the news of the competition on the news, and they ask him to support them and finance the competition. But she refused to finance the competition, and Morn especially tries to convince her when he saw the photo of her while she was performing in the same theater and asked the Morn of her come to the performance at the theater to relive his memories on stage, and Iddy's grandmother accepts his offer and goes on stage. And Morn goes on stage and asks the contestants to put on a dazzling show because tomorrow's grandmother is an idiot. He will come to see his symptoms on the stage of the stage, and Johnny gets a call from his father and tells him that the robbery will do it now and they will meet after half an hour in the exact place. And Johnny goes. They have a robbery and his father tells him that they will be back in half an hour and he must be waiting for them here with a car. Johnny seizes the opportunity and returns on stage to complete the training, and in the Achi training, her performance was weak due to her problems with her boyfriend. And Rosita also failed in the show because of her house and her work is at home, and the training ends and Johnny returns to the place from his father after the bank robbery. But he is late for them due to a car accident on the way to them, and at the same time the police arrest them and take them to jail. Allow and explain who spoke to him and the reason why he was late for them, but his father got very angry with him and told him that you are not fit to be my son and left him and went back to his cell. In the theater, Morn distributes roles to the contestants and tries to convince Mina that she is participating in the singing, and the grandmother comes on stage and the show begins, and at this moment, the men enter the disco while they are hunting mice, Mike, and they ask him, Morn, is it true that you have $1,000 for mice? And Morn tells them that inside the box there are $1,000, and it is especially for the one who wins the singing contest. And the men at the disco try to break the box and get the money, but they can't find the amount planned. Suddenly, the water floods them from all sides inside the theater, and the whole stage collapses and falls to the ground. Fatigue of the father. Each of the contestants goes home and is very sorry for their dream of winning a competition. And the bank seizes the floor of the theater and Morn loses everything he had and leaves Morn lives in the house of his idiot friend. He is at home with all the contestants and asks him to perform the theatrical show elsewhere, and tells them that they wrote about him in the newspaper story that he is a failure, irresponsible, and dangerous to society, and they are trying to convince him that each of them has a dream and they must achieve it, but he rejects all of his suggestions. After that, he and Iddy are going to do the car wash just like his father did, and at the same time he is washing the car he hears the voice of a beautiful person singing, and he goes to see who sings and finds out that it is the elephants. Mine and decides to call the contestants to interpret the song, and who through their cooperation manage to build a platform to perform the show with everything they have and announce the date of the contest everywhere. And many people attend, and the show begins, and the TV channels will act out the song, and Rosetta and Cans will begin. In the first show, it fascinates all the attendees, and people start to come from everywhere after seeing him on TV, and John's second show begins, and his singing was wonderful with his playing the piano and his father doing it go while he's in jail, and he's so proud of him, and he escapes from jail to go and show his son singing. And when Ecchi began to present his singing show, the bank employee entered him and asked him to leave the place because it was owned by the bank, but the audience objected to the decision of the bank employee and asked Ecchi to continue singing. And his performance was very beautiful and the number of the audience increased, and at that moment Abu Johnny arrived and hugged him and tell him that you are very proud of him. The role of Mina goes into singing, and when she sings, she enchants everyone with her beautiful voice and her wonderful acting. And among the spectators, Iddy's grandmother is watching the music show and refuses to support them and buy them theatre land from the bank and build a great theatre for them so that they can be proud of their performances and fulfill their dream of singing. Here ends our story with Morn and the great competition. I hope you like the story and we find the second part of the film and a new story. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel. A summary of the film in a minute, to receive all the news, and thank you very much for watching the video.